Fantasy Football Fools. We are back again. Sorry about the off week last week, but we're back with your week 6 recap. Hard to believe 6 weeks are already in the books at this point, but these seasons do always fly by. Jacob, how we feeling after week 6? I think this is your second loss in a row. What are you thinking right now?
Yeah, second loss in a row. Not great. Um, Injuries kind of killed both Rudy and I, but Mason actually did well, even though he got injured. But Jerome Ford really screwed me. Do I think he gets 13 more points? Maybe. Dak really screwed me this week with that dud he threw against the Lions. I have Goff on the bench. I wasn't thinking about starting Goff, so I'm really not that mad about that. And the same thing with Mark Andrews. I still would have lost even if I played Mark Andrews, but just the guys just didn't perform, or the two guys really didn't perform. But my team was good. I like my team still. I think last week I lost to Geoff, and I had my worst bye week, so I wasn't too worried about that loss. This loss stings, but I'm still liking the team. Kenneth Walker did all right, or did well, still having a great year. I picked up Tyrone Tracy 2 weeks ago, and he's been a really good running back. Now that Devin Singletary is hurt, hopefully he continues to be the lead back, even with Singletary probably coming back this week. Like I said, this loss hurts. Rudy is in division, and he's 5-1, leading our division. But I don't know. I'm definitely not giving up. I got Devontae Adams coming back this week on a new team. The
New
Jets,
squad.
new squad. Hopefully he reinvents himself. Well, he doesn't really. Just hopefully he plays. That's really all I care about. Just as long as he plays, is on the field, he's a threat. So I think we're trending upward. I mean, we're going down right now, but we're going to be trending upward. I think. I'm not too nervous. But shout out to Rudy. He had a good week.
He did. He had another solid week. He continues a pretty good season stretch that he's been putting together kind of all year, even with guys banged up here and there. And you mentioned injury on your team, but I think the worst dud you got was a guy that was fully healthy for the whole game. I mean,
Yeah.
good Lord, Dak. I sometimes I wonder if this guy even knows how to play football. Like one week he goes out there and he'll throw for 300 yards and it looks like butter, and then the next week, like on a week like this, versus a defense that's, I'll say, even given a benefit of doubt, I would say middle of the road defense, the Lions. I mean, people have been putting up points against them, and this guy goes out there and he can't even score. Like it sometimes this Cowboys team just really boggles my mind about like what they're like. They have so much talent on this team and they just can't put it together. I don't get it sometimes, but definitely I would say that was probably the worst dud you could have got out of the squad. I mean, I think, did Jerome get hurt?
Yeah, he got hurt after like the second carry,
Yeah,
hamstring.
so I mean, you can't be mad about that. That's obviously something that you can't control, but man, 3 points out of your quarterback, out of a guy that should be, I mean, at least, throwing for 150 to 250 yards, you would think as a floor. Like that's just a tough day at the office there. But yeah, I mean, Rudy gets the best of you here. That's just really a tough loss.
Yeah, I'm not really worried about Dak. I mean, I think last year, after the bye week, the Cowboys really turned it up. So they actually have a bye this week. So it's gonna be the bye's coming at a perfect time for Dak. And I think he last year he just turned it up to 100 after the bye. I remember because I think either Lubasi traded him to Nick or vice versa, and whoever got Dak was just going crazy because he was putting up 20, 25s every week. So we'll see how he does after the bye. But yeah, he hasn't been a great quarterback. He's had some good weeks, but yeah, he's not consistent enough. We'll see how Jared Goff does. Jared Goff went crazy last week. I think he's starting for me so far this week. We'll see what happens on the waiver report wire. But yeah, so yeah, shout out to Rudy, 5-1, team to beat in the division. He made a second quick decision like 5 minutes before kickoff to play Tank Dell over George Pickens, which was the right call. He still would have won no matter what. even without that change. But yeah, he played the right guys. DK, even with his down week, and Jordan Mason, that was a Thursday game. I was looking really good after Thursday, and it just didn't work out for me, but that's sometimes fantasy. So good job, Rudy. I think he's 5-1. I think the other guys in our division are 3-3. We'll see once we get to the standings, but we'll go to James and Lubasi's team or game. This was a blowout. James had probably his best week. I mean, I'm sure this is his best week of the year. And just his running backs went crazy. 25 from Bijan, 25 from Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry, I think, is RB1, RB2.
Ooh, RB2.
Who's RB1?
Hold on. Let's see if we can guess.
Uh,
We'll get to it at some point, but let's see if we can think of it off the top of our heads.
it's not Jordan Mason. All right, you think about it while I talk about James' team. Yeah, Bijan actually had a really good week. He's actually RB7 with actually surprising me. No, he's been pretty consistent. He needed that breakout game, and I think he got it this week. We'll see how he does the rest of the year.
I think the thing about Bijan is like he just doesn't he's consistent. He gets the catches, you know, he gets some decent yards on the ground. He just does not find the end zone. And this was finally his game. He finds the end zone twice and finally has that breakout game that I think James was probably looking for. Funny enough, I actually threw out a probably pretty bad trade to James last week to see if he maybe was trying to sell low on old Bijan, but he wasn't going. He denied the trade, didn't even throw a comment my way, nothing. So he was not ready to get rid of him, and good for him because Bijan finally shows up this week.
Yeah, I think this whole Colts offense, I don't know who has Jeremy Downs, or that's not his name, is it? Josh Downs. But these Indianapolis Colts receivers, I think like Joe Flacco a lot more than Anthony Richardson. Probably from a fantasy perspective, James probably wants Richardson in there just because of his rushing ability. But I mean, solid day for Joe Flacco, 14 points. That's kind of what he was projected to get. But I mean, just the rest of his team balled out. I mean, all double digits except the defense and kicker, which are iffy to get double digits every week anyway. This team has gotten a lot better since the first couple podcasts. I don't think we really disliked James's team in the start of those first two, but we didn't love the team. But this team is looking a lot better, a little scary now.
Yeah, I would say, you know, you're talking about trending up and down earlier. I would say James's team is definitely on the uptrend right now. Bucky Irving, we've been talking about him kind of all season about when he might or may not take over for Rachaad White. Rachaad White goes down with an injury. Obviously, Bucky Irving, an easy, you know, guy that's going to step into that number one role, and it obviously pays off really well this week, putting up an 18. But yeah, I think James's team's really come together in the last couple weeks. He's put together a couple wins, and this team is looking pretty good. I mean, he's making a push here, and I know he did that trade with, was it Jimmy? Yeah, I think it was a trade with Jimmy. And he got Cortland Sutton, who puts up a solid week this week. Michael Pittman's finally coming together here. You were talking about Anthony Richardson from a fantasy perspective, but man, with Richardson in there, he was dropping duds all those first 2 or 3 games. And now he's got, okay, so the last 3 games that he started, but like now he's got Flacco in there. I think that's kind of elevated this whole Colts pass offense a lot because Richardson just wasn't doing it through the air. And yeah, this team's coming together. It's a team to watch. He's definitely got one of the best running back cores, I would say, probably maybe the best running back core in the league if Bijan keeps this up. And that's a thing to say because running backs are hard to come by these days.
For sure. And just going to the other guy on the right here, I think Lubasi's team is actually trending upward, but he just can't find a dub, or he's getting a little unlucky. I mean, Travis Etienne with a minus 0.1, that's just crazy. But if he gets like a 20 ball from Travis, you know, he's real. I mean, he's not beating James, but his team is looking better. I mean, Garrett Wilson actually looks good. Stephon Diggs, is the number one without without Nico there. This team is actually looking good, but just the record 1-5. I mean, that's just tough to come back from.
Yeah, we always talk about people dropping goose eggs, but the one thing that's worse than someone dropping a goose egg is seeing a negative next to one of your running backs or really any of your position players. Uh, you don't even want to see a negative next to your defense, but seeing it out of a running back spot, that's obviously going to result in a tough week. But he still puts up a 115, so I kind of have to agree that I do think this team is kind of on somewhat of an uptrend. We didn't get to talk about this last week, but we did see Lubasi make his first GM move, his first trade last week, and he got Cole Kmet and he got somebody
Baker,
else from
Baker,
Geoff, right?
Baker, and he didn't even play Baker, so I don't
Yeah,
understand that.
yeah, he got Baker Mayfield from him too and left him on the bench, which would have got him another 13 points. I mean, still wouldn't have done it for him this week, but
Yeah.
that is kind of funny to look back on. But it will be interesting to see now. We saw today big news: Devontae Adams gets traded to the Jets. What kind of effect that's going to have on Garrett Wilson? I'm not sure that Garrett's going to be the number one guy anymore. I mean, I think the last 2 weeks, Garrett Wilson has gotten a double-digit targets. I would have to say at minimum. Yep,
Yeah.
last 2 weeks, double-digit targets, and with Devontae Adams in town now, I have to imagine that that's going to start ticking down because Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams are like BFFs. I mean, that's a lot of those targets. I think are going to start floating Devontae's way, which could be good for you and could possibly be bad for Lubasi here on his number one wide receiver. So we'll see how that goes. But he does have at least a couple more weeks of Stephon Diggs at least being the number one in the Texans offense. So we'll see if he can continue to go on this uptrend.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, it depends on where they play Garrett Wilson. If they play more in the slot, which is where he usually gets his targets, I watched that Jets game yesterday a lot. I mean, not a lot, but I watched a good portion of the game. And he was, I mean, when he lined up in the slot, he was getting a lot of good releases and a lot of good catches there and yards after the catch. So if they put him in the slot, I think it would be really good for the Jets in general, just because you have a number one outside threat in Devontae and then a slot threat in Wilson. That could be lethal. But we'll see how that plays out. That offense is going to be very interesting the next couple weeks. A lot of mouths to feed with Brees there too. So we'll
My
see.
boy.
But we'll go to Johnny and Dom's team. And 2-3-3 teams now. Johnny gets the win. This is a 3-game winning streak from Johnny. I know a lot of people are talking shit about Johnny's team going 0-3. And he said he doesn't have an 0-3 team. And he was right because he now has a 3-3 team with a 3-game winning streak. And this team is looking good, 140-ish, 139, closer to 139. But this team did its thing this week, and his running backs just kind of ugly. Jonathan Taylor is hurt. Aaron Jones is hurt, but he still gets 37 points, 38 points from his running backs of J.K. Dobbins and Tyler Algier. That's a pretty good duo right there for at least this week. I don't know how good they will be in the coming weeks, and then I was talking about Josh Downs. Like I said, he really likes Flacco as quarterback because I don't think he scored a point with Richardson as quarterback. Yeah, his first 2 weeks. I think he might have been hurt.
Yeah, he was definitely out the first 2 weeks, and then I think week 3 was with Richardson, and then
And then
yeah,
the
as soon as
rest.
Flacco came in, I'm telling you that Colts pass offense came alive as soon as Flacco came into town. I mean, he's the guy. Like if you want to talk passing quarterbacks, like he revives the Browns offense last year, then he comes to Indy this year, and as soon as Richardson goes down, their pass offense comes alive. It's just Joe Flacco is like the team savior when it comes to pass offense.
Yeah, and definitely with Pittman we saw earlier with James and then Josh Downs. Yeah, I have to agree with that. Richardson can move his legs and get a lot of rushing yards, but he, again, gets hurt a lot too by doing that. So I don't know what the Colts are going to do if Richardson – I think Richardson was healthy this week, but he was a quarterback 3. I don't think he was 100%, but we'll see what they do this week. But yeah, great week by Johnny. He still loves playing Keon Coleman, and he's been a bust every week except 1 week. And I feel like Johnny didn't even play him. Well, he only got
That's
one.
not, yeah, that's almost still like close to bust territory, even with an
Yeah.
11. Like he just has not had a whole, I mean, really just any Bills receivers
Well, we got
just
Cooper there now.
have not been doing well. And yeah, now they have Amari Cooper, which I mean, get back to the Browns. Good. I've been talking dog shit about the Browns offense all year, and they've now gotten significantly worse because they don't have Amari Cooper. We got Jerry Jeudy as wide receiver 1 out there now. But one thing of note, real quick, on Johnny's team before we go to Dom's, dropping a 139, almost a 140 with nobody on your team scoring a 20 plus, that's pretty impressive. That's solid consistency across the board. I think this team is definitely on the up and up right now.
Yeah, and then I agree. Yeah, I didn't even notice that. That is pretty impressive. But we'll go to Dom's team. And man, I don't want to say this is the story of Dom's fantasy football life, but this guy always seems to have a good team and still just middle of the road in record wise. Kyler, I think, man, I feel like I don't want to say he was
Tough
a
year.
bust, but I feel like so many people were hyping him up. And he's had 2 out of the last 3 weeks have been a
I was
pretty
one of
tough
them.
week for him. I know I was eyeing Kyler, but Dom got him real early. I don't think Kyler was supposed to go to like the 8th or 9th round, and Dom reached for him. I don't want to say he's a bust yet, but with a 6th round price tag, he's getting kind of close.
Yeah, I was one of those people hyping Kyler up. I thought this was gonna be his bounce back year. I mean, last year he was coming off that big injury, and it wasn't a great year for him. But this year, a couple years removed from that, I think a lot of people thought that this was gonna be the one, getting a couple new pieces of talent into that offense, and he just has not performed. And another crazy thing about Dom's team here, getting another loss and just a kind of a disappointing week, is he's got his guys that have been injured back in the lineup. AJ Brown came back, Debo's back, and they do great work here. And then all of a sudden, like Saquon stinks for a week, and just the other guys around him on this team just not performing. And just that's a tough loss for Dom.
Yeah, Brian Thomas, I think I was hyping him up 2 weeks ago. Had a dud against the Bears, which is a really good pass defense. Um, yeah, Dom's going to look to try to get back on track. I think this is a 2-game losing streak like me with Dom because I feel like he was 3-1 last podcast. So I think he lost last week as well. So Dom is going to have to look to get back on track. I think we have a lot of 3-3 teams because I know I was, James is, Johnny and Dom also are. We'll see the next 3 games on 3-3 teams. But yeah, hopefully Dom. I'm rooting for Dom, but right now it's still a really good team. It's just his team has to come together and score consistently. He still gets a 116, but sometimes that just doesn't do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the beginning of the season and even through the first few weeks, we've been talking about Dom's team being really, on paper, being one of those best, scarier teams up in the probably top 2, top 3. And yeah, this is a tough little skid that he's gone through here. He did deal with those injuries, like I said, but even getting those guys back now, he takes this L, and that's tough.
Yeah, and we'll go to Chris, another 3-3 team, and Geoff. Geoff had a pretty down week, but we had a lot of high scoring games this week. 130, 138, 139, 146. Pretty good week. But you can see the Chris's trade from last time we potted with Jimmy kind of take a good turn for him with Josh Allen getting a 24 ball. Keenan Allen on his bench with a 21. It's a good week. I mean, Chris Godwin kind of carried this week for kind of inconsistent numbers. Now that I'm kind of looking at the numbers, but still gets a win, still gets 138. How do you like Chris's team? I don't know if I liked it. I don't know what
Yeah,
to think of Chris's
I
team
don't
right
know.
now.
We've been I think we've been up and down on this team. I think at one point his team was looking real good, and then after that trade, I know the first week after that trade, it did not look great, but I think that was just, we'd seen that trade happen.
Right.
Everybody was thinking that Chris ran away with that trade, and then that first week afterwards, it was like, oh, well, wait a minute, Jimmy might actually pulled off something crazy here. But yeah, I mean, I think, Josh Allen, if he gets back to form and starts dropping numbers like this again, I think Chris's team is looking pretty decent. I don't. Brandon Ayuk though, man, that guy is just a freaking mind bender. I cannot
Yeah.
figure out what goes on with. I mean, that guy gets a huge contract over the offseason coming into this year, and he had one really good week, but man, everything around that has just been
It's all single digits.
just not great. Like he's just, it's so strange. Look at that, all single digits except for
No
that one
touchdowns.
week. And yeah, no, not a single touchdown all year. He dropped to 22 with no touchdowns. That's pretty nuts. But yeah, I don't know. Like that wide receiver one spot. I mean, I could call Chris Godwin probably his wide receiver one, but just Brandon Ayuk is such a freaking brain scratcher. I don't get it. Like he should be so good, and he's just not performing super well this year. But I mean, kudos to Chris. He gets the win this week, even if it is carried on the back of Godwin and Josh Allen. And I mean, Alexander Madison has a great week. You wouldn't really expect that out of anybody on the Raiders offense, but he gets the job done. And I don't think this team is terrible by any means. And Ramondre was hurt this week. He's got a couple guys on bye down there, but yeah, I don't know. I think Chris's team is pretty. Oh, Justin Jefferson. Yeah, that's his wide receiver one.
Yeah. That's what I
Um,
was trying to point to.
yeah, sorry. Yeah. Yeah, no, I think Chris's team is pretty solid. He's got the bones, the structure here. I expect him to be in the mix throughout the year. But yeah, we'll see what happens. As long as Josh Allen, I think, can stay consistent and where he should be, then I think this team's pretty good.
Yeah, then we'll go to Jeff's team, and Jeff had a down week, probably to what he thinks this team and what I think that this team can be. But yeah, he trades for Jake Ferguson because his tight end spot has been just a question mark all year, and he throws up at 4.
Yeah.
So Jeff's got to be frustrated with his tight end position. I think Jake Ferguson is a really good. He's actually my tight end in the other league I'm in. I think he's a good tight end to have. It's just funny that he puts up a dud this week. I think this was his lowest week this year, except for week one was still week one was better, but not by much. But yeah, Jeff's team. No, he had Brian Robinson Jr. hurt. Couple buys here. Patrick Mahomes, which is his backup tight end. We'll talk about that trade and kind of the weirdness of the trade. But yeah, without Nico, this team is a lot less scary. Still scary. CD still gets a 16.1, even though they got blown out. The only Cowboys person that actually looked good fantasy wise that game. But yeah, definitely without Nico, this team kind of takes a big hit. It's going to be interesting to see the next 3 weeks without him, maybe even more. We don't know yet. To see how Geoff does. He's sitting at 4-2, still leading that division, I think. I think actually you are leading the division, but
I am.
same
Yeah.
record.
Because I did beat Geoff, but
Yeah.
no big deal. And
Right.
I do think, even to your point with Nico gone, I mean Terry McLaurin drops a Nico like number here with
Yeah.
the 20 plus. Chuba Hubbard in the flex here with a 15. I mean, really his receivers, his flex, everything kind of performed pretty well. I think he just falls short here with the tight end position and James Conner. James Conner had a pretty rough week. I mean, the Cardinals didn't look super great in that game versus the Packers, but yeah, to your point about the trade with Lubasi, I think that was kind of a head scratcher. We didn't really get a chance to talk about that because we didn't talk last week, but getting Mahomes and Ferguson, I didn't really make a whole lot of sense for Geoff to make that move. And I mean, we saw Cole Kmet drop a 25, so
Yeah,
drop him in there. Jeff's looking at 21 more points in this game, and I think
and he
that
wins.
would have got him the win.
Yeah,
So yeah, that's an interesting thing to see moving forward if that trade is going to have some impact on this team. But yeah, I mean, really, you look at the down week from James Conner and the down week out of his tight end position. I mean, and this could look a little bit different, but really, I mean, look at all the surrounding pieces from that, and he still had a pretty decent week here.
yeah. 120 is nothing to hang your head about. Probably would have won against the median, maybe. Don't know.
Yeah, it would have
I'll
been
compare.
close. Would have been close this week.
Would have been close, but yeah, it's just just I think Justine's gonna be fine. I think you're gonna have these weeks that just somebody's gonna put up a 140, and it's hard to beat a 140. Your team will have to play perfect, kind of like him. But yeah, Chris Godwin was probably the difference maker of this game. 35 points was definitely his highest by a lot. Not a lot, but definitely wins Chris this week. But we'll go to one of the lowest scoring, actually the lowest scoring game this week in Nick and Chewy. And Chewy's team is not looking great. 2-4, 93.6. He makes that big trade with you. That gives Marvin Harrison a goose egg. But it was really his running backs because of Devon A. Chain's on a bye. And then he had Rashad White get hurt. I think he was out on Saturday, maybe Sunday or Friday. And then Singletary and Neighbors gets called out the day before the game. So, I mean, he was just probably frantic on who his running backs would have been. And he got a combined 2.7 out of them, which won't win you a lot of games.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, like, he was still really close to winning this game, which
Yeah.
I mean, he's 8 points away here from somehow pulling out this win with Justice Hill and Eric Gray as his RB1 and RB2. I'm sure he was missing Brees Hall this week, who dropped a 20 ball for me. Now I'm mad about that. But yeah, I mean, really unfortunate for Marvin Harrison to go down. I think that was in the first quarter. I mean,
Yeah,
he
you can get
was
a
he was
yeah.
out quick with
Yep.
that concussion. So yeah, that's honestly just a really tough break. I mean, you would expect that he probably would have dropped more than an 8, and it's Chewy still probably would have walked away with a win here if had that not happened. But yeah, just honestly a really tough week here for Chewy, and Nick just continues to drop fairly low numbers and just coming away with wins. Like he's got a goose egg on his team and he still walks away with a win. You can't be mad about it.
No, and this team, I think, gets better with Amari Cooper going to Buffalo. I think Cooper elevates. We'll see, I guess, but he definitely is going to be better than what he is with Deshaun Watson. Mike Evans has another dud. Um, I don't think this guy's been. Yeah, he's boom or bust. He's either getting a 23 or he's getting below 7.
Well, and look at these scores though, and think about it because New Orleans, he was being shadowed by Lattimore. Denver, he was getting shadowed by Patrick Surtain.
Yeah,
And well, I guess the Detroit game, I don't really think there was anybody of note, but just
no.
kind of dropped a 7 there. But those two lowest scores, he was getting shadowed by one of the best defenders in the game both times. And if you look at history, like him versus Marshawn Lattimore, like he never does super well when he's getting covered by him. So I think Mike Evans is going to be okay. But man, honestly, like Nick's team just right now doesn't scare me. I don't know what you think about this, but like this team just does not scare me, and I'm probably gonna regret that because I'm as soon as I play him, he's gonna drop like a 130 on me. But I mean, looking at this team on paper, like I'm not concerned about it.
Yeah, and Tyreek Hill, I mean, once he gets Tua back, he's definitely going to be a top 5 receiver again. But is Tua coming back? I mean, they got to buy this week, so maybe next week they'll get him back, but who knows? But yeah, I mean, as it is right now, you can't be happy, or you got to hope you're facing Nick in the next week or two. But you also got to make sure you score more than 100 points when you're facing him, just because he'll get lucky like that. But yeah, Mixon kind of holds Nick to this W, 27, and his kicker, I mean, gets 19.4. You can't be too mad about that. Yeah, nothing too much to say. Nick's team's just surviving right now, and that's what he's got to do without Hill. He gets Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb's not going to be 100% the first couple games, but his team could become really, really good in the next month. So whoever's playing them this week and probably next week have to get the dubs against them now, because this team could turn it around.
Yeah, and I mean that's exactly what you want. Like when your team's kind of down with all those people, and they're still, like you said, surviving and getting wins. He's sitting at 4-2, even with some of those down guys. And if he gets those guys back and they start firing on all cylinders, then that team could go from not scary to very scary.
Yes. So we'll go to the last game of the week. How do you think this game went for you?
Well, I mean, I got to be pretty happy about it. It was a nice, kind of a stress-free win, to be quite honest. Jimmy's team just kind of had a rough week, like a few of the guys we've already talked about today. And I saw as soon as he put Jeremy McNichols in as his RB2, I was kind of like, oh, hell yeah. I was definitely not very scared about that, but I mean, he came into this week with a lot of brutal buys. I mean, Kareem Hunt was out, Kyron was out. He had obviously Pacheco on IR, but yeah, he was missing a lot of good pieces this week, and I kind of knew like this was the time to beat Jimmy, because really he's got a pretty solid squad, and we talked about this a couple weeks ago after he made those big trades. Like this team is pretty good. I mean, especially sitting at 1-5, I would say that this is definitely not a 1-5 looking team, especially with the new pieces that he's acquired here. But this was just honestly like a opportune moment to play him, because he's got those buys, and we came out with the dub, so I got to be pretty happy about it.
Yeah, I mean, you can't be mad at a win. Yeah, you summed it up pretty perfect with Jimmy's team. Bad bye week. This is the week to get him. He was trying to just kind of sneak a win past you, but your team actually did well enough to beat him, which I think this was the lowest score of the week. Yeah, Chewy got a little bit higher than him. So Jimmy just got to kind of go on a win streak now. 1-5. Him and Lubasi need to kind of. I don't think they can lose another game. I mean, I think they're in must-win territory, because if you go 1-6, you have to be perfect from here on out, and trying to be perfect in fantasy football is just next to impossible. So I believe that him and Lubasi, it'd be kind of funny if they actually play each other, which we'll see here soon. But they're in must-win territory, I think, this week.
Yeah, I would agree. I would think that panic button's got to be feeling pretty close. But I mean, at this point, like Jimmy's made his moves, he's put his team together, and I think he's got a very solid team. I think, going back to Lubasi's team, maybe a couple more moves that he might need to make or want to make. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, sitting at 1-5 is not great. But I'm happy with what I've done. I'm not super stoked about the trade that I did with Jimmy here when I gave him Swift and Jaden Reed. Looking back at that, if I had known that I was going to make the trade with Chewy to get Brees Hall, like, man, if I still had Swift and Jaden Reed, my team would be looking pretty damn lethal right now. But I can't be looking back in the past. I'm happy with what I got right now. I've turned my team into very wide receiver heavy, into now having a really good running back 1-2 punch, and I'm pretty happy about that. So I think we're trending upwards here.
Yeah, I think you. I mean, you're on a 2-game win streak, aren't you?
No, I did. I took an L last week.
Okay. Well, yeah, I think I remember. I think during my write up, I said that you had one of the lowest points for. I mean, I think you were 8th. That you just needed to find more points and to trend up, and I think you've done that so far. I think this team is really good. With Jamar Chase kind of having a dud week, I think his last 2 weeks have been last 2 weeks prior. Yeah, 41, 17, 29. 12 is a little underwhelming, but still, they get the dub. Deontay Johnson's been a really good pick for you this year. I think he was a 7th or 8th round pick. 6th round pick, close enough. Yeah, this team's really scary. Right now, I play you this week, so hopefully I can sneak in. I think we are both fully strength teams, so I think it's going to be a good game for us coming into this week. And speaking of that, we'll look at game this week because I won't really want to see who Lubasi plays, which is Nick, which is good for Lubasi. In a must-win game, I would want to play Nick. I would want to play Nick right now. But like I said, we got me and you against each other. Projections are pretty close. Then you got Lubasi and Nick, Chris and Johnny, Jimmy and Rudy, which is that's going to be a good game with Rudy being the best guy in the division so far with a record
5-1 versus 1-5. That's a matchup to watch there.
Yep.
Jimmy, just like Lubasi in must-win territory versus probably, I mean, best record team in the league. That's gonna be a good one.
Yep. And then James and Chewy, and then Geoff and Dom. So we got some big matchups in division matchups with Geoff and Dom. Dom really needs. I mean, he's not in must-win territory, but he would love a win against Geoff. And then we got 2, 3, and 3 teams here. So yeah, it's gonna be a pretty good week coming up. But yeah, then we'll go to standings like we usually do. And we'll go to points for how much time we got left, right?
All right, video cut out on us there, but we're just getting into our standings here and looking at our points for, which Geoff is still handily holding the lead here.
Yeah, and then it's funny to see though, because Johnny is a 3rd right now, and you can see who's last, and he's a 2-4 or a 4-2 team, which is just very interesting. Nick is getting really lucky in these matchups, and this kind of can see because his points against is the lowest in the league, and he's actually got a negative point differential, which is just crazy.
That is okay. Yeah, that is crazy. I didn't even realize that, but wow, yeah, negative point differential. That's pretty wild. He's playing excellent defense right now.
Yeah, he's playing better defense than offense, which is crazy. But yeah, points for, you got Johnny, you got Chris up there, got Rudy up there. I'm sits in the middle with Jimmy's in the middle as well. You're still kind of lagging behind. I think you were 8th last, or I think you were 3rd to last. I think you're 4th to last now, but like you said, trending upward, I think, from the last time we saw this. We'll go to division record,
But look who's at the top here. Look who's at the top here.
Yeah, and I take a L with Rudy, which is 3-1. So me and Rudy are both 3-1. Yeah, being 4-0 in division is very, very good. You'll have a lot of options for towards the end of the season. Options to get into the playoffs if you kind of fall off a little bit in your win-loss record. But do you want to talk about the trades or?
I think we should hold on. We didn't really get into the actual standings here too much. I do think it's worth noting. I mean, we talked about it a little bit earlier, but we do have 2 1-5 teams that we said are in must-win mode. I think right now, sitting at single-digit playoff percentages at week 6, which is obviously not super great. You definitely don't want to be seeing yourself there. So Jimmy and Lubasi are definitely seeking to get that dub this week. They are in very sketchy territory right now, I would say, compared to the rest of the league. That is definitely not where you want to be right now.
No, yeah, I agree. And Chewy, he's not there yet, but he's our only 2-4 team. He's definitely looking for a win this week. And then we have 6 3-3 teams. Really don't want to get 5 3-3 teams. Really don't want to get below 500. So we're looking to get W's. But yeah, we have 4 top guys who have winning records: 2 4-2, 3 4-2s, and a 5-1. There's 6 playoff teams that get into the playoffs. So yeah, it's really close. I mean, we're 6 weeks in, and we got a 5-way tie for 2 spots for the playoffs.
Yeah, I would definitely say that with 2 1-5 teams and a 2-4 team, these next couple weeks are going to get pretty dicey. Like they're going to be pretty interesting matchups. Watching those 3 guys down there, like really vying for a win right now, and then watching all these 3-3 teams too at the same time, like seeing who can stay above that 500 or at or above that 500 mark over the next couple weeks. That's going to be really interesting to see. And then, our top teams here, the 4 of us, just seeing who can stay hot, and who's gonna drop. Like this middle of the season road, I feel like is such an interesting time and a crucial time, really, to see who's gonna separate themselves from the pack one way or the other. Like who's going up, who's going down. And it's gonna be some exciting weeks here coming up.
Yeah, I agree. Next couple weeks, I think we have 16, no, not 16, 13 regular season games, 12 maybe. I don't know. I think we're halfway through the regular season. I think we have around, there's 18 weeks. We don't do the last week. So 17, 16, 15 are playoffs. So we have 14 weeks. So this, not quite, yeah, this is the halfway. I mean, this is the seventh game that we have. So after this week, we'll be pretty much halfway done with the regular season. So yeah, it's really exciting.
Oh man, yeah, this is where shit, the furnace is on, man. It's heating up, and people are. This is crucial time right here. We gotta see what's going on. I feel as good as I could be right now at the top of the division, but man, it's hard not to have that thought in the back of your head of like anything could happen at any time. This is football. This is fantasy. It's just so many things could happen.
Yeah, fantasy is a crazy. Nothing is 100% automatic. Nothing.
No, no, not at all. Like things could change in an instant by, 3 weeks from now, 4 weeks from now, Jimmy could be at the top of this division. I could be at the bottom. Like you just really never know with fantasy, but it's like I said, these next, 3 to 4 weeks are going to be very crucial and exciting times to see how this stuff shakes up, and I can't wait.
Do you want to go through the trades, or do you think we
Yeah,
covered
yeah,
it?
we can talk about the trades a little bit since we didn't have a chance to do that last week. We got a little bit of time here. Recent activity.
I was fine. Yeah, I was fine traded. So we'll go to. I guess we only have 2 trades to talk about. I think these are the only 2 that we didn't get to, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, they are.
Yes.
There's
So
only
yeah, we kind of talked about the Patrick. We talked about the Geoff and Lubasi trade. It was just an odd. I mean, my first reaction was like, why the heck did Geoff do this? Like,
yeah,
it didn't help his team whatsoever.
yeah, I tend to agree. I mean, he trades his start. I think maybe his starting tight end. I can't
It
remember if
was.
he was
Yeah.
starting him weekly, but his starting tight end and a bench quarterback for a guy that's going to be his bench quarterback
Yeah.
and a possibly worse starting tight end. Yeah, I don't know. I this didn't really make a whole lot of sense to me either. Kind of the same thing as you. When I saw this, I was kind of scratching my head of just like, why did Geoff do this?
Yeah.
And then also after seeing this week, I'm wondering kind of why Lubasi did this too. Like Cole Kmet did give him a great bump on the tight end spot for this week, but he didn't play Baker Mayfield.
Right.
And yeah, it's just a very strange trade. Like I
Yeah.
just
I wonder,
almost
like, who came to who first, because like I know Geoff wasn't looking for Patrick Mahomes, and I think Lubasi said that. I think Lubasi definitely had to want somebody. I think he wanted Baker, and he didn't play Baker, which makes it so much weirder. I don't I don't know. It was so weird.
Yeah, he ends up getting Kirk Cousins off of waivers, I'm pretty sure,
Yeah,
to start him instead, which I guess I kind of get because he was playing the Panthers, but like if you were planning to do that, what were we making the trade for? Like
right.
I don't know, maybe he was looking at week 7 on, but he was
Yeah,
gonna play
maybe.
Baker and that was the plan. But yeah, all in all, just kind of a head scratching trade. I don't know that I would say that either of them won this. I wouldn't put an edge really to anybody. I think
I think both of them lost. I don't know.
yeah.
It's just so weird. I, don't know. I have no idea. I think both their teams
Yeah.
are worse off for it. I don't know. I don't. I mean, that's probably not true, but it's just it was yeah. It was definitely a loss for Geoff this week. Lubasi lost no matter what. Um,
Yeah, I think
but yeah,
this, if we were gonna have to grade this, I would say that both of them get a C. I'm gonna
yeah.
put them
See,
at a
it's
C.
just an
It's
even
not
weird
it's not
trade.
an F. They didn't ruin anything, and it's not an
Yeah,
A because they didn't make any fireworks or anything with this trade. But both of them C.
yeah.
C's all around here for this one.
Yeah, then we'll go to your trade. I think this has been the biggest trade. Maybe Jimmy and Chris was a bigger trade, but we do get to trade the fifth pick of the draft this year in Brees Hall. I think he was fifth. Yeah, he was fifth because he was picked right before me. And this trade was pretty big. I don't know. I think this was a really pretty even trade if I do say so myself. I think Achan will pick it up when Tua gets back, but that's the big thing is when Tua gets back. Marvin, he's been up and down. Of course, he gets a concussion now, so he'll be out maybe possibly this week. So right now it's looking better for you, of course. But I think overall, I think this is a pretty even trade. I like what Chewy did here, but I would give the edge to you getting Brees Hall, buying low on him, and you could see it kind of paying off already with the 20 ball. He picked it up this week. But Chris Olave has been down this year, and he gets hurt as well. And I actually would probably take Laporta over Pitts, but I think you're the big winner just because of Brees Hall.
Yeah, and I do think it is funny that both the receivers we traded get a concussion in like
Right.
the
Yep.
first quarter of each of their games. Um, but I like my receiving core was pretty strong coming into like even thinking about doing this trade. I felt like I could give away Marvin, who, like you said, has been kind of up and down. I don't feel like I'm gonna miss him too much. I mean, my flex spot's still kind of a question, but having Brees Hall as my RB1 now, I think I would rather have him than Achan, and that was kind of my thought here as I was doing this. And then tight end wise, like Laporta has just been very disappointing this year,
Mm.
and I have Tucker Kraft, who is most likely going to be my starting tight end most weeks. He had a pretty rough week this week, but having Kyle Pitts as that backup and somebody as a bench stash, I'm definitely not mad about that. So I'm pretty happy about this trade, but I do agree with you. I think this was super even across the board. I think this, all in all, like all things equal as far as people being healthy and everything, I think this is pretty dead even here. But I just made the move of people I like more than what I had before. But mainly just trying to get Brees Hall was what I wanted.
Yeah, yeah. We'll see how that goes. Again, the Jets' offense is going to look different with Devontae Adams now, so there's going to be another mouth to feed. I don't think that really matters to Brees Hall as much as it does to, of course, Garrett Wilson and Alan Lazard. But it is somebody who will probably take away a couple catches and a couple um, red zone targets away from Brees Hall, especially catches. I feel like his catches might go down with Adams there just because, Rodgers will need to get Adams the ball, and then he'll want to get Wilson the ball too. So it'll be interesting to see how this Jets offense works. It's definitely going to affect Brees Hall, but not too much, I don't think.
The way I think about it, one, they still have to run the ball. They're
Yeah.
still going to run the ball, and two, having Devontae Adams could clear out the box a lot better than what they had before. If everyone's only focused on Garrett Wilson, they can still kind of load the box a little bit. Now they can't really do that so much. So it could possibly open up more catches or more opportunities, at least for Brees Hall in the passing game. But there is more targets that are going to go Devontae Adams' way for sure. So yeah, I think it could still work out okay, but I'm definitely happy with this trade. Like I said earlier, looking back, I kind of wish I didn't make the trade with Jimmy now, but nonetheless, I got a solid running back core, and I'm definitely happy about that.
Yep. So then we'll go back to standings. Those are the two trades. I wonder if we have any more. I think the trade deadline. Oh man, that's a good question that I asked myself internally. I don't know when the trade deadline is.
For some reason, I want to say week 13, or is it before that?
I think it's in November. November 6th.
November 6th.
So
So
we
that would
got
be
3 more weeks.
7, 8, 9. Week 9, between week 9 and 10.
Yeah, because I think the NFL trade deadline is the 30th or the 31st. I think it's this week. So I think I did the trade deadline for us the week after so we can kind of mess with our team after the actual NFL trade deadline. So I think that's why I did that.
Yeah, right between week 9 and week 10. So to everybody out there that's still looking to make some moves, you only got about 3 weeks left. So, if you're 1-5 and haven't made a whole lot of moves, maybe you're thinking about it. You got a few weeks to do so.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's must win. 1-5 teams are must win. I stand by that. They are in must win territory.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about it every year. You're looking at about that 6-loss mark before you're thinking I am on the verge of not making the playoffs. Being in week 6 and you're already staring that 6th loss in the face. It's must win. It's do or die. Like you got to get it done. So, I mean, we talked about it a little bit. Just gonna recap. I do think Jimmy has made his moves. I don't foresee him doing too much else. Lubasi, on the other hand, we just talked about his trade a little bit. I think maybe there's a little more work to be done in the GM office if he wants to try and turn the tide on what he's got going on. But maybe he's confident. Maybe he's confident in his guys that he has now and turning it around. We'll see. But yeah, we're gonna all eyes kind of on these 1-5 teams right now to see like if we knock 2 guys out of the playoff race before week 8. I mean, just 2 less people you got to worry about. I guess.
Yeah, better them than me. So, fuck them.
Love you guys though.
Yeah, I don't want you to make it. I'm fighting for my spot. I'm fighting for the end spots over there. So.
Oh yeah, it's time to get selfish, baby.
Yep.
We in this for ourselves.
Yep, exactly.
The friendship knob is turned off right now. We go over playoffs. There's nobody safe.
No, we're done. Don't talk to me until I clinch.
Hell yeah, I love it. I love it. All right, well, I think that will probably do it for our week 6 recap. I'm really looking forward to week 7 and beyond here. Things, like we said, are going to get real dicey. It's heating up right now. We're into the middle of the season, and it's do or die for a lot of people. So, do you have any closing thoughts here for everybody for week 6 or week 7, I guess, moving forward?
Week 7, a couple big games here and then. I think there's a lot of big games for the NFL just itself. I know the Lions are playing the Vikings. I think there's some big division matchups, some big 4-2 teams going at it. Heavyweights for the NFL. So it should be a good week fantasy-wise and NFL just to watch those games and maybe make some few bets too. So I'm excited for this Sunday for sure.
Yep, that's going to be good stuff. I cannot wait. And, good luck to everybody in week 7 and beyond, especially to our 2 1-5 teams. Special little good luck to you guys.
Good luck,
little extra sauce there. All right, guys, we are going to close it out here, but we will be back again next week. Good luck to all in week 7, and we'll see you then.
Peace.